Today, I'm going to talk about an alternative to suicide. And that alternative might be becoming someone else, shedding who you are. Because obviously, if you are considering suicide, that means you're not happy with your life. You're not happy with what's happening in your life in this moment. Some people may say, changing your name is pretty extreme. Well, my counter argument is killing yourself is even more extreme. I think that if changing your name or changing your identity, changing the way you dress, changing the way you eat, changing your hobbies, if that keeps someone alive, then why would you be against it? There are some people who have been in therapy, people who have been trying to make life changes for months, for years, for even a decade, and nothing is working for them. And that's why I think changing your identity, changing who you are, is absolutely an alternative to suicide. A lot of people, when they encounter someone who is considering suicide, instead of focusing on alternatives, the focus is on prevention. And a lot of times we feel as though if we don't shout, "No, don't do it, things will get better." The problem with this approach is that it invalidates what the person is feeling in that moment. And more than anything, someone who's feeling suicidal probably wants to be validated. They want someone to simply listen. And remember that people who are determined to commit suicide, that means that suicide is not negotiable. And that means they're probably not willing or open to having a conversation about suicide. If someone is willing to sit down and have a conversation with you, that in itself means that it is negotiable. So don't freak out if someone says, "I'm feeling suicidal." And certainly don't threaten that person by saying, "If you tell me you're going to kill yourself, then I'm calling 911. Because all that's going to do is make the person not trust you. And in that moment, my guess is that the person who is feeling suicidal is looking for someone to trust, someone who is going to listen and validate what they're experiencing in that moment. So take the focus away from judgmental statements like, "You shouldn't do that. Why are you so selfish? Why are you only thinking about yourself? What about all the other people that will be devastated if you kill yourself?" Those are judgmental statements, and it's guilt tripping. And in my opinion, that should not be the focus of the conversation, because what it will probably do is make the person feel even worse than they already are feeling in that moment. So my suggestion is, if you are having a conversation with someone who is feeling suicidal, to take the focus away from judgment statements and guilt-tripping statements, and certainly do not threaten the person by making the statement that you will call 911 if you have to. Because what the other person will probably do is immediately start lying. They will start saying, "Oh, I didn't mean it, I blah, 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 blah." And they're just going to try to get away from you. Instead, try to listen from a place of not knowing. Listen from a place of not knowing. Open yourself up to hearing what the other person has to say. And ask questions and listen. A lot of times, people who are feeling suicidal, they just want to be heard. That in itself is very healing. And that could be the preventive that you, as the other party, wants. You want to prevent them from committing suicide. So start with non-judgmental statements. Avoid being judgmental and just listen from a place of not knowing. I can't say that enough. Do not threaten the person. And when I say threats, I mean saying, I'm going to call 911. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to have you committed. Because that is just going to cause the other person to shut down and not be honest with you. My video today is about an alternative to suicide. So if you're watching this and you, in this moment, are considering suicide, then try to open yourself up to this idea that maybe there is an alternative and you just haven't thought of it, or someone hasn't presented this idea. And that idea is to change who you are. And when I say that, I really mean it. I'm talking about changing your name, changing the way you dress, changing your hobbies, changing your profession, changing your possessions. I'm talking about shedding who you are and becoming a new person. A lot of people will laugh at that. A lot of people will say, well, all you're doing is you're telling that person to deny their true self. And a lot of people will say, well, all you're doing is you're enabling that person to engage in avoidance. Well, I disagree, because I think that any alternative to killing yourself is a better option. That's just my opinion. A lot of people will say, oh my gosh, why would you tell someone to change their name? Why would you tell someone to sell all their belongings and to start over? Well, because people who are suicidal are extremely unhappy. They are often in pain. They are in so much pain that they need to escape. And I'm suggesting changing who you are, literally becoming a new person. I'm talking about moving out of your apartment or your house, moving to another town, moving to another country, doing something major to change your life. And again, this is an alternative. An alternative to suicide is changing your name, changing the way you dress, changing the foods you eat, changing your hobbies, changing your interests, selling all of your belongings, moving out of your house or apartment, quitting your job, starting a new job, starting a brand new career, learning a foreign language, moving to a foreign country. It's about shedding the life that you have that's not working out for you and starting a new life for yourself. Because becoming someone new, doing things differently, could be the alternative to suicide.